This woman literally chained my gate shut and told me I was squatting on the very land my grandpappy homesteaded in 1937. I swear, it was the worst decision of her pampered, perfect life. I'd been gone almost 4 years, up on the rigs in the Bakken oil fields, grinding out every dime to keep my mom comfortable, while Alzheimer's slowly took her memories, my memories away. When I finally came home to the old Copper Creek Valley, ready to breathe that clean Colorado air, and just remember how to be myself again, I found a steel chain blocking the old logging road and a glossy sign reading, "Welcome to Summit, Crest Estates, Private Community." That smell of fresh pine I'd been dreaming about was instantly choked by this overwhelming cloud of designer perfume as a woman stepped out of a pristine white Mercedes G-Wagon, looking like she owned the entire mountain, every single rock and every last breath of air. Her name was Serafina Thorne. Picture your worst HOA nightmare. Give her a platinum blonde blunt cut sharp enough to slice granite, and an attitude that screamed, "I summer in the Hamptons." She saw my beat-up '98 Ford F-250, my trusty black workhorse, and her nose wrinkled. Just a fraction, but I caught it. Well, she clipped, holding a clipboard like a weapon. "The local pest control must have missed one. This is private property, honey. You are trespassing." I kept my voice low, just barely a rumble. "Ma'am, that's my family's cabin up there. We've owned this 400 acres since before that fancy gate was a twinkle in a developer's eye." Her smile, perfectly bleached and totally hollow, didn't falter. "Not anymore, it isn't. The rules have changed, Declan." She'd even looked up my name. That's when I realized this wasn't just a random Karen moment. This was planned. What she didn't know was that while she focused on the surface, the grass, the paint, the perfectly hideous glass mansions she'd let sprout like invasive weeds across my valley, she missed the deep history, the absolute foundation of what was happening under her precious manicured feet. My grandpappy didn't just build a cabin. He built a legacy of self-reliance, and he had the foresight to secure the land, the water, and most importantly, the subsurface mineral rights to every acre of this valley. But I saved that knowledge for later. I just watched her drive away, then took a set of bolt cutters to that pretentious chain. That same evening, a hand-delivered manila envelope landed on my porch, thicker than a phone book, smelling like expensive paper and malice. 63 separate violation notices. My natural cedar roof didn't match their architectural palette. My root cellar, the one that kept my family alive during the Great Depression, was an unauthorized outbuilding. The wild Queen Anne's, lace and fireweed blooming in the meadow were unapproved landscaping. The total fine? Nearly $80,000 with a $600 a day penalty. All from an HOA I never joined, based on covenants I never signed. It was highway robbery masked as community standards, fueled by pure, unadulterated snobbery, the kind that judged my calloused hands and my honest work. I drove my rumbling old truck down to the county recorder's office, hoping to find a loophole, some small thread of law I could cling to. That's where I ran into old Jebediah. Been the clerk there since forever, knows every parcel and every secret in the county. Jeb leaned back, pushing his glasses up. "Declan, boy," he sighed, "that Summit Crest development. Things moved too fast, too much money smoothing the way." But he checked the legal filings. The first ray of sunshine, the covenants required, unanimous consent from all property owners in the affected zone to be legally binding. And guess what? My signature, my family's homestead. It wasn't on the list. Not anywhere. Serafina and her developer husband, Dorian, had tried to sweep my cabin under the rug, hoping I'd stay gone forever. That discovery shifted the game from checkers to chess. I was playing for my home. They were playing for property values and ego. The next day, I picked up 6 trail cameras, the kind with motion-activated night vision and crystal-clear audio. Bullies thrive in the shadows, and it was time to drag Serafina and her whole little empire into the unforgiving light. It didn't take 48 hours to get the evidence I needed. My cameras caught Serafina and two of her clipboard cronies creeping around my property at 5:30 in the morning, whispering like discount ninjas. The audio was perfect. "We need more," Serafina's voice hissed. "We need documentation of every possible violation. The more we stack up, the faster we can pressure him into selling. Then, the real venom. I'll call the county health department," she plotted. "Claim his septic system is contaminating the creek. Emergency contamination. Concerns always get an immediate response." That's when I knew this was no simple HOA squabble. This was organized criminal harassment. They weren't just trying to fine me. They were trying to use the weight of the government to manufacture a reason to seize my home. 2 days later, right on cue, the county health inspector showed up. A good old boy named Earl who knew my grandpappy. I handed Earl a flash drive with the camera footage before he even looked at the septic system. He came back shaking his head. "Declan, your system is cleaner than most new installations. But this footage is a conspiracy. You need a lawyer, son, but I think you need a federal one." The very next week, Serafina brought the whole circus. 3 official county trucks, a man in a full hazmat suit, and a local news van. She stood there, basking in the camera lights, playing the concerned citizen role, trying to paint my homestead as a toxic waste dump. I waited for her interview to finish, then calmly walked over to the reporter. "Excuse me," I interrupted, pulling up a specific clip on my phone. "I'm Declan Forrester, the property owner. Since you're covering this story, you might want to know the person who just gave you that interview has been trespassing on my land for weeks, and I have video evidence of her discussing filing those false reports with the county." Serafina's perfect face went from smug to lobster red so fast I thought she might pop a contact lens. The reporter's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. She knew she had the real story now. Not environmental hazard, but HOA tyranny and fraud. But the true game changer was the mineral rights. My lawyer Roxanne, a woman who specialized in fighting corporate bullies, called me in to deliver the knockout blow. "Declan," she said, sliding a geological survey across the table. "You don't just own your cabin, and you don't just own the surface rights. You own the mineral rights beneath the entire 1,280-acre valley floor, including the rare earth deposits under every single one of Serafina's precious mansions." The silence in that room was heavier than a mountain snowpack. Then she dropped the hammer. And according to federal law, since they never notified the mineral rights holder, every single building permit for Summit Crest Estates was issued illegally. The whole development is built on a lie. Not only was I not trespassing, but legally, I had the right to access my minerals, which essentially gave me legal authority over every surface action they took. That's when we went nuclear. Roxanne contacted the FBI's regional task force, connecting Serafina's Colorado scheme to her similar fraudulent operations in Arizona and Texas. We had the evidence of the false reports, the embezzlement of HOA funds, the attempted arson, and the massive federal mining law violations. Within weeks, the valley was swarming with federal agents, FBI, IRS, EPA, not to harass me, but to dismantle Serafina's criminal enterprise. They arrested her, her lawyer husband Dorian, and the corrupt county commissioner who had rubber-stamped their permits. At the sentencing hearing, Serafina was unrecognizable. The designer clothes replaced by an orange jumpsuit, her defiance replaced by desperation. The judge, an iron-willed woman named Judge Williams, sentenced her to 25 years in federal prison and a $69 million restitution order under federal racketeering statutes. As the marshals let her out, she spotted me in the gallery screaming, "This isn't over, Forrester. You think you won, but you've destroyed everything." But she was wrong. The real victory wasn't her downfall. It was what came next. The HOA was dissolved, the money was recovered and given back to every defrauded family, and the valley began to heal. The final act? We used a portion of Serafina's forfeited assets to establish the Copper Creek Veterans Sanctuary, a program for combat vets healing from trauma. Right there on the land she tried to steal. Her stolen money now funds peace and recovery. Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor that's just perfect. So, I'm home now. The air smells like pine and freedom, not designer perfume and spite. The question is, why do people like Serafina? Feel entitled to control every inch of other people's lives. Have you ever had to fight a bully who used their money or their HOA power like a weapon? Drop your story in the comments below. Let's talk about where the line is between community standards and outright tyranny. Because I learned the hard way. You have to know what's buried beneath the surface to truly protect what you own.